Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Drabinski, and I'm here to talk about finding and seizing career opportunities. We decided to hold this webinar here at the beginning of August because I know a lot of us are, the end of the summer already seems like it's here and a new semester is starting. And this is a time when a lot of us are trying to think about how to plan for sort of a future career and also like what to do once we get started with the new semester. So the way this will work is in a second, my live face will disappear. Sorry about that. And the PowerPoint will pop up and I'll work through the PowerPoint. It should take about 30 or 40 minutes today. And then if you have questions or concerns or things you want to talk about or questions that you have that we can all discuss, please type them in that box that's right there and we'll address those at the end. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us today and I'll see you in a little bit. All right. So today we're talking about finding and seizing career opportunities. And a lot of what we'll talk about today will be familiar to you, but I think it's good for us to sort of gather some of this information and start to think strategically opportunities happen for us, especially given the sort of different kinds of careers that we might be looking at here in the future. All right, so on tap today, I'm going to start by talking about how to find and seize teaching opportunities, and then we'll talk about writing opportunities, research opportunities, more unfamiliar career opportunities, and then a bit about how to shape those experiences into a kind of career plan. And then I'll end with some further resources. We've talked a lot about Ideas on Fire. We talk a lot about building careers for outside of the academy when we're inside the academy. So I'll point you to some of those resources that you can use going forward. All right, but let's start by talking about how to set priorities. And I think this is really important. A lot of us sort of stumble into different opportunities and then it takes us on a new road and that's exciting, but it's worth thinking about how we might plan a little bit better for where we're headed. So some questions that you might want to ask is first, what is my vision for my career right now? And that for a lot of us, we start graduate school without a clear idea what we want to do. We might have a question we want to answer, or we were really good undergraduates, and so we didn't know what else to do, so we ended up in graduate school. A lot of us don't start with a clear sense of where we're headed. So it's worth checking in with yourself regularly about where you see your career going. Right. I mean, remember that it's often different from the vision that we have when we start. And thinking about that vision for your career, ask yourself what you need to do to get there. And when you're thinking about where to go, I think it's a good idea to think really practically about the sort of career landscape and sort of jobs landscape. First, what kinds of jobs are available in your field? And this doesn't just mean looking at today's job list, but also taking into account the last several years or the sort of forecast that you see in your field. What kind of jobs are available? And then look at who's getting them. Are the jobs going only to people from, a certain number of graduate programs? And if you're not in one of those graduate programs, where are people in your graduate program getting placed? What kinds of jobs are they doing? And it's worth being really, really honest at this moment, right? Am I at a place and in a position where I think that these jobs that I might be able to get them? And then think about the skills that you need to get to some of those jobs. And now I'm thinking about not just jobs as professors, but maybe jobs in other parts of the academy, maybe working for humanities research institutes or staff positions in residence life or student life, thinking about other kinds of positions inside the university or outside the university, working in publishing or working in journalism. And what kind of skills do you need to get there and how can you develop them? And what I want to stress today is that often we develop those skills by taking unexpected sort of career opportunities and really using them and then pitching them later as a way that we've developed the skills necessary to get a different kind of job. Also important when you're setting your priorities is think about who can mentor me. Is there someone in the field that you're interested in who can tell you sort of how they got there or can hook you up with some opportunities that can help you develop the skills or the resume that can get you a job in that field later. So thinking about mentors is really important. And we have a lot of, we had a significant mentorship series here at Ideas on Fire that I'll point you to at the end of this webinar. Finally, remember that careers rarely travel in a straight line. So it's really important to be open to new opportunities. Sometimes the disappointment, like for me, for example, I didn't land a tenure track job, but I got a postdoctoral teaching fellowship. And I was resentful of it because it paid very little and I taught all the time and I thought, this isn't a postdoc. But what it did teach me was that I wanted to be a teacher and I wanted to be a teacher full time. And it gave me the skills and the resume to get that kind of job, right? So it might not be what, your career might not go where you think it's going to go, but it's worth sort of rolling with that. Also, be honest about your goals and priorities and let them change. You may discover when you hit graduate school, you hit the dissertation phase, for example, that research and writing is not pleasurable for you. Right? Most of us struggle with that, especially when we're at that dissertation phase for lots of complicated reasons that aren't always about, I don't like research and writing, but if that's not something that brings you pleasure, think about the fact that that's what a tenure line faculty job means, right? And so maybe it's okay to shift that, even if that's what you've always wanted, right? Maybe you've discovered that's not what brings you pleasure and makes you feel valuable in your life, right? So be honest about your goals and priorities and let them change. All right, so once you've got sort of a sense of your priorities for the immediate future and then looking down the road for a few years, it's time to start looking around for opportunities that can help you get there. So I wanted to start by talking about finding and seizing teaching opportunities. For a lot of us, teaching is part of how we pay for graduate school. So it's not really an opportunity as much as it's a job. But a lot of us sometimes, there are ways to add teaching, to add income. There are different kinds of teaching you can do, either inside or outside your institution. And if teaching is sort of where you want to go, either at the college level, or if you've decided you want to do high school teaching, or maybe training, corporate training, or work that's any kind of like teaching stuff, it can be important to broaden that teaching portfolio. But I want to start by saying it's really important to consider your priorities. Will teaching actually help you meet your goals? Is it meeting a financial goal? And if so, is the financial reward of teaching significant enough to get you towards that goal? Do you want to be a teacher full time? If you want a tenure line job, often it's the research that lands you that job. So are you sure that this is where you want to go? Right. So really think seriously about whether or not teaching will help you meet your goals. And that's why I have this added bullet here. Are you sure? Right? Because teaching is really rewarding, especially since so much of research and writing is really something you do alone, and teaching lets you be with other people, and you get sort of immediate feedback and immediate gratification from it. So make sure that if you're looking for new teaching opportunities, that it's in a mindful way towards a career in teaching. Next, think about what kind of teaching you need to develop the skills that you want to meet your goal. So I think there are a bunch of different ways to think about teaching. One is teaching to find mentors. Is there a faculty member who you want to teach with or for as a teaching assistant so that you can connect with them? When I started graduate school, I went straight to a professor's office and said, I was sent here by my undergraduate professor and I want to work with you. And I got a very low-level grading gig with him, but it was a really important connection and it was really important mentorship. So if that's what you're looking for, don't be shy about reaching out to professors, especially since so many of us are in interdisciplinary departments, reaching out to professors in other departments to see if they need any help with teaching. So teaching to find mentors is one approach to teaching towards a career. You might also be thinking about teaching for experience, right? Do I want to be able to teach introductory courses, maybe because the field of teaching composition is sort of very robust. Maybe you want experience there. In that case, like look for departments or for teaching opportunities either in the institution you're in or outside that let you get the classes on your resume that will build it for your career. My PhD is in rhetoric. I wanted a job in gender and women's studies. So I went to that department at Berkeley when I was in graduate school and managed to teach for them most of the time. And getting that teaching experience really helped me get teaching positions in gender and women's studies later, especially because I didn't have a PhD in that field. So teaching for experience in other fields is another way to sort of approach finding those opportunities. And then finally, teaching for connections. If you are place-based, right, you want to stay where you are, reaching out to area institutions and teaching for them can get you on their radar for teaching jobs later, right? So sometimes you're teaching for connections to other institutions. And that brings us to the question of, should you adjunct outside your home institution in order to build teaching experience? There are a couple things to consider. If you're working in your PhD program, check the rules. Make sure that there isn't, sometimes there's a rule against teaching outside. So just check that. And then also be really honest with yourself about how much time it will take to teach outside your institution. Don't forget the travel time, office hours, answering emails, learning new learning management systems. If they use Canvas and you're a Blackboarder, really think seriously about the time it will take, because the connections can be helpful, but if it takes you away from your other work, that's not always helpful. So ultimately, when we're looking at teaching opportunities, the question is like to seize or not to seize, and it really depends on what your priorities are in terms of your other work, so what those priorities are and where you see your career in the future. All right, next I want to talk about finding and seizing writing opportunities. A lot of us spend all our time writing, and we're writing our dissertations, or we're writing seminar papers, or we're writing conference papers, and we're writing all the time. And we have a lot of writing that's required of us for our job or for our PhD program. So again, you need to consider your priorities. Will writing outside of the requirements of your program or your job actually help you meet your goals? And there's a really good chance that it will, right? That writing can help you make new connections. It can jumpstart the writing for your dissertation. Right? Other kinds of writing can often help you develop your voice, a voice that's often squashed by the requirements of academic writing. So when you're thinking about writing opportunities, right, ask yourself, will this writing opportunity help me make new connections or branch out into new professional arenas? How will it be helpful? And there are a couple of questions I always ask when I'm greeted with new opportunities for writing or I'm seeking them out. And I'll talk in a minute about like finding these opportunities, because they don't generally fall in your lap. First, does the writing pay? Pay you. A lot of academics write for experience and to develop a kind of public audience. I think that's a fine way to do it, but it's also worth asking and demanding to get paid. Writing doesn't pay a lot these days, but every penny counts. So ask yourself that. Second, will this writing reach audiences that you want to reach? If you're thinking about developing your career as someone who's working in public more than just in the academy, is this possible public audiences and develop that kind of writing voice? If that's something that you're looking to do, that can make those opportunities more important. Does it help you develop your voice? I do a lot of public writing on a personal blog, but then also for newspapers in my area and for websites. And I found that writing in that personal and public way really helps develop a unique voice that will help all of your writing. So when you're thinking about whether or not to take on this other writing opportunity, it's worth considering that. Like, will it might help your other writing that you're doing. But then finally, ask yourself, is this an alibi for not writing what I'm supposed to be writing? At least for me, when I was writing my dissertation, anything that meant I didn't have to write my dissertation, I would do that. And it's really important to check that impulse, because if you're writing a dissertation or you're writing a book, working on a book proposal for your new job or something, that kind of writing, it might need to take priority. So sort of have to ask yourself, whether or not it's actually worth it to do or if it's going to take away from your other writing. Now, in terms of finding those writing opportunities, letting people know that you are in the market for those opportunities is super important. So tap your mentors, let them know that you're interested in writing for, so some sort of outlets for this are your local alternative newspaper. That's where I got to start writing. For newsletters for professional organizations, maybe not the main ones, but other kinds of newsletters. Asking your mentors if they know of any sort of textbook projects happening or encyclopedias and finding ways to write for them. You can also, and I think this is super time consuming. So again, this is only if you're thinking I need to, like, that my life is about freelance writing and that's my career. And that's sort of another webinar, but learning how to pitch to websites and magazines and try to find places where you can place your writing. And that's a lot more work, but if that's where you see your career going and you want to build that career, it's worth spending some time working on how to make those pitches. I will say that placing freelance writing is a lot about who you know, and so asking connections, looking at mastheads of newspapers and seeing if you know anybody, asking people if they have any connections at places like Atlantic or places where sort of a scholarly inspired writing happens, right? Asking people to connect you is, I think, can really help you find those opportunities. And then the last thing I wanted to say about these kinds of writing opportunities is reading widely and broadly will not only benefit your writing, as we all know, but it will also help you find and make connections and find new opportunities. If you regularly read a certain website, right, and you have a sense of the voice of that website, you can find, you can often, your pitch will be more successful, right? So read widely and broadly and be open to how, if your research translates into something that, some issue that's covered in an online magazine or a website, like, it's worth trying to pitch that and pitch that expertise. All right, next I want to talk a little bit about research opportunities. And this, I think that if you're in the academy right now, none of this will be new, but just a reminder as we sort of semester that research opportunities come because we ask for them and we sort of demand new research opportunities. And this is about research opportunities not only with your own research, but also helping with the research of others. And it depends on your field if this is relevant. But I think it's first, let your mentors and connections know about, and they probably do know already about your research, but let them know about your research and that you're looking for opportunities to collaborate. People don't know that unless you tell them. So being open to collaboration can be a really powerful way to build connections that can help you in the future and also expand your research into new areas. Also, don't forget this new semester to set aside a little time to keep up with calls for papers, for conferences and journals. And this is, finding and seizing that both writing and research opportunity. If there's a special issue of a journal that's in your field, and even if you should be working on a dissertation, if one of your chapters might make sense as an article, it's likely worth it to spend some time shaping it into an article and sending it in, right? So finding those kinds of research opportunities can also give you new deadlines that push the rest of your work forward. Keeping up with your professional association is another way to sort of find research opportunities and also make sure that your research makes sense with where the field is going. This will really help later on if you decide to get an academic job, having a sense that it's, one doesn't want to choose a research topic because it's the quote hot one, but making sure that it's in line with where the field is going opens up, I think, a lot of doors for folks when they go on the job market. Again, be really honest with yourself about your priorities and what research needs to be done, right? And is it, if you just need to work on getting that dissertation done, then if other opportunities come up, you might not necessarily want to sort of take on new projects. All right, I wanted to end with finding and seizing more unfamiliar career opportunities, because I think a lot of opportunities in terms of writing, teaching, writing, and research will just come to us by being in the academy, right? We'll get those opportunities. But if we're sort of trying to broaden our experience, our base of experience, so that we have more career opportunities out there, so we're sort of thinking about other kinds of opportunities that might not make as much immediate sense. So first, keep an eye out for opportunities on campus to build skills. One is the burgeoning field of advising and student support. Check with the advising department on your campus and just see if they have openings. For where I teach, a lot of graduate students will do advising in summer, in the summertime, just for a little extra cash. But once you get sort of advising skills, that becomes a marketable skill, whether you want an academic job as a professor, or if you decide to go into student services or something like that. So sort of that's a kind of opportunity that might just give you a couple $100 every couple of weeks in the summer, but can translate into something that you can pitch as a really important part of your portfolio and your skills and abilities. Residence hall support. Most of us are likely not. Most of us are likely not in student services, but residence halls often look for faculty and graduate students to do presentations in the residence hall, sometimes even live there for pay, which might not sound appealing, but can be a way to make connections with residence life as another arena at the university where you might get a job. Another sort of area on campus to look at is in leadership and co-curricular activities. If there are living learning communities at your campus, for example, it's worth looking to see if they need any faculty or graduate student support. Looking at student life and see if they run leadership programs or workshops that you might be able to get involved in. And these are all, I think, you sort of have to go out and find these opportunities. They don't necessarily fall in your lap, but if you get some experience here, it can definitely expand the kinds of jobs you can get, especially as sadly more and more jobs turn from tenure line jobs to teaching and student service-based jobs. And so if that's something that you're interested in doing and having that open as a possibility for your career, getting those skills now is really important. And then finally, looking at opportunities for grant writing and event planning. This is the kind of opportunity you can create for yourself, right? If you're in graduate school and a set of graduate students want to say put on a conference or something, that's a ton of work, but you can get experience writing grants, either for money from inside the institution or outside, that you can use to fund the conference. Planning that kind of event is a lot of work and really good experience that can open up a whole different set of jobs. For example, I'm in women's studies. The National Women's Studies Association is soon going to be hiring people to, they're sort of reorganizing, and they're going to be hiring people to run the organization. And if you have experience in running a conference or writing grants, that experience will come in really handy for those kinds of jobs, right? So jobs that aren't even in the academy, this will be really, that kind of experience can be really helpful. So for that, you can make that experience for yourself, I think, through putting on events through either your department or your graduate student union, but you can also ask your mentors if they need help with any of those kinds of things, because that'll be great experience going forward. If you want to leave the academy and build a career, say, in the nonprofit sector, that grant writing experience will be absolutely invaluable. And then, so a couple other things I want to talk about in terms of unfamiliar career opportunities is be realistic about the job market. And I know we all say this and we all know this, but the job market is really tough. And being open to these kinds of opportunities that are really not academic necessarily in nature, right? Things like working with student life or student activities can feel sometimes kind of alienating, right? Like, did I really come to graduate school to have pizza in the dorms? Well, maybe not, but having pizza in the dorms is a different like kind of connection and a different kind of experience that prepares you for different kinds of careers. So thinking really honestly and realistically about the job market, think about how opportunities might help you. So don't be afraid to sort of seize an opportunity that feels really outside that academic comfort zone. Because goals and priorities change, and our goals and priorities in terms of our career can change as outside forces do. So being open to new possibilities is really important, right? So it might feel like it's an opportunity that takes you away from what you came here for, but maybe you're going somewhere new, right? So be open to that. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about how to shape those experiences into careers. And I think, as we all know, careers don't always follow straight paths. We often end up places we never expected. And that's a good thing. That's just, that's what life's about. So the idea that we're going to go to college, go to graduate school, land that visiting assistant professor position, and then get a tenure-line job, and then build a whole career, and live that one place forever, that's less and less likely, right? So be open to careers following a sort of different paths. And in order to do this, it's important to check in regularly about your goals, right? A lot of what working in the academy means is teaching. And maybe you don't like teaching. If you don't like teaching, is there some other part of the career you can develop and get a job working, that uses those skills instead of the teaching ones, right? So checking in with yourself regularly about your goals is really important. And in order to do this, I like to ask myself, what do I find genuinely rewarding and meaningful about my work? For me, I've decided what, at this point in my career, what's genuinely rewarding is teaching and also writing to public audiences that, and writing that's read by more than just a couple of people, right? That's what happens to be rewarding and meaningful for me. So I seize opportunities that create that life for me. So really check in with yourself about who it is that you want to be in the world. Also seek mentorship. And on the next screen, I'll link you to a couple of pieces in our mentorship series. And this, I think, is incredibly important. Find people who are in fields that are tangential to yours, who might be able to, who can actually help you think about how to shape your experiences into a kind of career that maybe you hadn't planned. And just asking folks to go for coffee, right? And getting, just hearing from them sort of about how their career unfolded is a great way to brainstorm ways that yours can as well. And this process is really challenging. So finding support systems is really essential. And those can be peer support systems of professors, but also people outside the academy who can provide some much needed perspective, because sometimes that gets lost in our fields. And then finally, remember that all careers are careers in progress, right? All of us will have roads that lead in unexpected ways. All right, I wanted to end today by pointing you to a few resources here at Ideas on Fire that might help as you sort of think about how to find and seize new career opportunities. First, this, and you'll get this in email, but looking at academic mentorship resources at Ideas on Fire, we have a blog series, we have a number of different programs where we talk about how to nurture mentor relationships, how to find mentors, how to be a good mentee, and things like that. So those relationships are going to be really important for finding opportunities, right? Because those mentors are the ones who are going to hook you up. We also have, if you're interested in sort of finding and seizing career opportunities that are sort of less expected, we have a webinar called Using Side Gigs to Explore Career Options that talks about more about how to pitch to a website, how to pitch your writing, how to build a different kind of career using side gigs that help bring in extra money as well, because we all know that that's important. And then we also have a series about how to prep for an altac or postac career while in graduate school. And this, I think, is also relevant to our discussion today about how to find and seize opportunities to build careers that we didn't expect in the first place. So now I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint, and I'll come back to you. I think. All right. Hello, I'm back. So that's today's webinar. Does anyone have any questions or comments or things they'd like to talk about? All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up for today, but thanks everybody for joining us. And I hope that we're all off to a good that we have a good new semester and find and seize some new career opportunities that open up some new doors. So we'll see you at another webinar soon, I hope. All right, bye-bye.